Hey, what's up, you guys? Akromaniac here. So, trying, like, just as a disclaimer, I'm legitimately making a very sincere and a very diligent effort to release content for this game, in a sense of at least trying to get more matches in, trying to do more streams. Like the earlier tech stuff. I might do a breakdown guide for Sindel. Um, Realistically, what it is, a lot of it, part of the delay or like the gaps in between uploads, and then even just like whenever I stream, and even just creating a guide because I could have realistically done one for her already, let alone just picking up other characters and testing out different cameos and whatnot. I have, I feel like it's a given. This is usually just the nature of how games work, especially fighting games. There's always going to be that initial first big patch, that just updates every single fucking thing with the game. Usually it's for the better. Usually it took a lot of thought. Usually it's done by developers that legitimately care about the game and want to see it thrive. So typically it's going to affect the mechanics, the frame data, it's going to alter the characters, it's going to shake up the meta itself a little bit. For that particular reason, above all else, that is why I'm not grinding as much, just because it's already evident the game is very unfinished. It's very clear that a lot of things either need to get nerfed or they need to get buffed. A lot of mechanical changes that need to sort of be like addressed. A lot of glaring things that have to be addressed as a whole. For that reason, in its entirety, I'm not going crazy because so much is subject to change and very, very likely will. So I'd much rather invest time really actually grinding once that actually occurs. Because at the same time, the game itself is not even fully playable. I can't even fully utilize the lab in its entirety, and then I can't even play certain games as well too. Um, just you get your disconnects online in general, just because online itself is not functioning. There are no lobbies for me to access. There is no online training. When it comes to ranked, I can't even have a Wi-Fi filter. I can even decline players that have like 120, 130 ping. They have to be on a threshold of 200 ping before I can actually really decline them. So there are a lot of components that just don't really make it worth the investment currently, at least from my perspective. Do I want to keep on playing the game? Of course I do. Do I think that it has a lot of potential? Absolutely. However, I, in its current state, I do not share those exact sentiments. These are all the potentials for a future product. These are all the potentials for the future of the game. But in its present state, it is very much an unplayable hot mess. Um, so with this, I kind of just wanted to at least express sort of my gripes with the game. Some of it might be Sindel, but a lot of it is really more of having the time that I clocked in with her so far, which, like, I looked at the time of the game, it's been about like 200 hours now of just literally just using exclusively her. I don't understand why she was designed in such a particular way, and other characters were clearly designed with benefits and crutches and handicaps in mind. This overall direction that NRS has taken started off with MK11, and I have simply just not been a fan ever since. I don't agree with it. I don't support it. I don't think that it's good for the scene. I don't think it's good for the company in the long run. I don't think that it even makes sense from a business standpoint, because you have this gore porn, you have all this uh, brutality within the game itself, all this violence, all this horrific endings, all these fatalities, all this gore, all this blood, skin shedding, bodies being sliced apart, heads being chopped off. You have all this extreme content, and yet it seems at the same exact time that the targeted demographic player base are idiot teenagers. You know, like, I don't. There seems to be a very, very potent disconnect between what the content itself is versus who it seems to be for. It seems to be for people that can't even walk into the store to begin with to even purchase your game in the first place. It seems like the targeted audience are minors, but the game itself is not clearly that, you know? So I'm going to be explaining how this conclusion even comes up and why it doesn't make sense. I first started with Mortal Kombat when it came to MK9 over 10 years ago. And what got me so interested in that game, even as a teenager then, like when I was a teenager at that point, what intrigued me so much with the game was like, oh, this is like where the big boys play, you know, in the sense that you have all these expansive ass move lists, you know, all these different kinds of things that you can do, all the combo routes, all the tech, all the crazy execution, all the fighting game knowledge. You have all these crazy components, and then you also have the gore on top of it. It was just like, oh my god, it was phenomenal. You know, all the crazy cancels, and it's been a very sad and very depressing journey from that point up until now, how NRS seems to have taken on the mantle, and they really tried to push their games up and up and up and up, and then ever since MK11 it just completely plummeted, and it's just been in the rut ever since, and it still is currently there. It seems like for whatever reason they really wanted MK11 to exist. They really thought that that was going to be the new it game, despite doing everything worse from every previous title that they've ever had. And rather than acknowledging how much of a failure that game itself was, they've tried to reboot it in this one. And I don't really understand why. I don't understand what was the passion, like what was the most pure thing about MK11 that they felt the need to keep on trying to revive it with Fatal Blow, Flawless Block, with all this auto movement, you know, nerfing jump-ins and nerfing the whole Wakeup system itself, and just trying to neutralize every single aspect of the fighting game itself. Like, to me, it doesn't make sense. So my biggest gripe overall with the game is like really just the movement itself. Like, this is how I can move back and forth, you know, like I can somewhat wave dash a little bit as Sindel. Most characters typically behave this way, but like, look at how my dashing itself is. You know, if I'm full screen, like, look at how long it takes, like just the dash duration in itself. If I want to dash cancel, I'll move like even slower a bit, depending. Like, you have to find a very particular timing, right, to get across. That's just for her. That's just standard movement. This is probably like the same for virtually every character. And then when it comes to backdashing, look how slow that shit is, right? Like, if I want to try to get back a little faster, you know, you're gonna have to try to do some kind of a wave dash. For certain characters, this type of movement itself doesn't work for them. You have to find a very particular spacing and timing for it, and even then, you're still kept out at a certain capability. Just design-wise, that is a design choice. That is a developer choice, what they want to do with those frames. Everybody, look at Paulo when it comes to question all these things. And now we have this character over here that's doing this for every backdash, as you can see. Like, this is how he's able to just do his little stupid wave dash. Like, this is my gripe with the game. Like, characters that are intended to be top, characters that they want players to gravitate to, my critique with this is just stop doing it. Give every character this so that all of your, like, little people that you really want them to feel also special, they will feel special because the character will still have these tools. But why hinder the entire rest of the roster? You know, why affect everybody else at the same time too? Because the thing is, even if you want these characters to be top or not, they may or they may not be. Because as a developer, you still don't understand what you're designing to begin with. You understand the aspects of it, you understand the theory of it, but you don't actually comprehend how it interacts at a high level because you can't even perform it at a high level, let alone understand it. So it doesn't really make sense to even try to force these things on. Just give this to every kind of character. You know, if the game is supposed to thrive off of this, then give this to everybody. Why does only he have it, or select few characters have it? With Liu Kang, when it comes to him like dashing forward, he literally runs across the screen. Just picture vanilla Injustice 2 Catwoman. You literally press forward and she's fucking running across. You know, you press back, she's doing the same thing. There is no reasoning behind it. It is just literal intentional biasness from a developer standpoint. And it's not good for the scene. It's not healthy. I will never, ever, ever be able to wrap my head around it. if you alter the game, if you have a meta in mind, and you implement the right mechanical changes, you give the same basic ass properties to every single character, your game is going to be hyped to begin with. You're already going to have diversity just off of that in itself. If everything was actually intentional, the stronger characters are going to rise to the top regardless. Your stronger players are going to rise to the top regardless. You're going to see what is strong and what is not all on its own. It's going to just happen inevitably. And then you just tweak it along, as the game keeps on progressing. It doesn't make sense to me what they want to force with each season every single time, because they still get it wrong every single time regardless. And it makes it a nuisance because it doesn't look good from a casual level or from a competitive level. This is the first game, I've done streams about this, I was talking about it on several of my streams. I have never ever played a single game in the past 15 years of me playing in general, all kinds of games across all kinds of genres, anything remotely competitive. The closest thing I ever saw to the same character being picked over and over was maybe Injustice 2 Deadshot or Injustice 2 Starfire. In their peak versions, and then at least with Deadshot he was addressed. Starfire just was left untouched. But even then she wasn't as bad. You get into the game more and more, she wasn't as bad as the initial impressions of her was. She was still obnoxious, she was still super brain dead, super potato, but I would happily fight her over a character like the Atom, or over a character like Brainiac, easily, any day. Whole point is that was the closest thing, and that was only from a tournament perspective. When you got online, you could still beat these players. You can still actually legitimately outplay them, and there's that. I've never played a game where quite literally 90% of all of my matches were the exact same character, being Baraka Cyrax, or Raiden Cyrax, or Liu Kang and Serena. Majority being Baraka Cyrax, but I've never ever played a game where there were that many of the same exact pick from this many different players, and they're all literally just doing the same exact thing, because the game is that babied. It is that simple to do. It is that effective for such basic inputs. I've never seen it. I've never actually, even MK11 was never that bad. Even though Cetrion was unanimously such a top character, same with Liu Kang, same with Jackie, I didn't run into every single game was just Cetrion, Jackie, Liu Kang. I'm not saying that game is better, because it's not. It's just I've never seen a game that catered so hard to basic players like in this one, that quite literally almost every single game is the exact same matchup, is the exact same character, the exact same combination, because it's that efficient for pressing the same exact thing. It's crazy. It's imagine that you're Sindel, right? Or as a Sindel player, you just learn how to do this, and that's all that you had to learn, because you do that and that's it. It's GG's from that point onward. That's all that you're doing all game long. You're just learning how to do that, and that's quite literally it. It's insane. From this, you will armor break, you launch, you anti-air, you're contesting neutral, you're mixing, and at the same exact time you're armor breaking, and you're going to catch backdashing, and you're going to catch any kind of counter poking, any kind of armoring, any kind of anything. You just learned that, and then that's it. Just fuck everything else, and then at the same time you're building yourself a full bar of meter, and you're going to be dishing out 50% if it hits. It's obnoxious, and a lot of that just kind of boils down to I know it's a little bit derived, or it's a little diverted from the whole auto movement, but a lot of it stems to that. It's because these characters, these top characters, they're built in a way where you press anything and it's they're flying forward, or they're advancing forward. And the thing is, most NRS games came with this to begin with, kind of advancing mids, or advancing normals, or retreating normals, or specials that are used for a bar, kind of Starfire's Temeranian Charge. That's what made her so frustrating to begin with. Trying to see this character too. So there are characters do come with shit like that to begin with, things that are inherent benefits, but it's typically not done in such a way that you literally have absolutely no option against it. So, for example, a character like Black Manta in Injustice 2, I think it was like his forward 1-2 or forward 1-2-2 or some shit, literally just flies across the screen, jailing true mid block strength that he can cancel into what, like 5 or 7% chip, and you just had to take it. It was so obnoxious. But the thing is, he had to, I think from this distance he can do that, and then you were holding it. I think it was only like 11 frame startup for him to fly across, but it was about like a 15 frame window, give or take, for him to be from here to there. So long as you outspaced it, then you were okay, you know? Or if you read that it was happening and he started it and you outspaced it, then you can interrupt him and then blow him up that way. Or you see him starting it, you challenge it with armor, you know? Or you simply just stay out of that space, and then he has very limited zoning. So he can't even do that. He had like a harpoon, which is relatively slow. You can even parry it on reaction or just duck it on reaction. And then he also had a teleport. You're just playing from outside that space. He teleports. You full combo punish him. He had no way to abuse that move unless he got himself in that space. He couldn't actually abuse his kit unless he was in that vicinity in itself, for the most part. It doesn't make sense to me how you have these characters that have this auto shit like this, and at the same time, you give them 3 different fucking projectiles at the same time too. Like, how does this make sense? You know, like, I don't know if I'm alone in this, and like, and that's not even all of it. No, 4 projectiles actually. Like, I don't understand the reasoning. And the thing is, he's not the only character that has this, but he's like the more prominent one. Or like this kind of auto, like, look, you're all the way over here, and look at how he runs up. You know? Like, the problem with this is that it's not so much the characters. I mean, part of it is the character just by design, but the problem is that you introduce this whole Kameo system, and they're supposed to be essentially filling in the gaps that the character can't cover on default, or to accentuate certain things that the character can automatically do. It doesn't really matter which way you cut it necessarily. The fact of the matter is, especially for Liu Kang, if you have a character or a cameo like Serena, or any cameo that's capable of just moving in general and just contesting that whole space that you can convert off of, they're gonna freely just be able to abuse whatever they want anyways. It's going to be largely more influenced on the cameo itself than the actual characters. You know, and it's just, this was my initial worry from the start. How does a company like NRS, who has a reputation of not comprehending what it is to balance a game, how can they possibly balance something like this? And how it's currently looking, I don't really know how or what to expect, because it doesn't make sense. The problem is that you can never actually outspace in this game. Like in other games, or in a game kind of like Injustice 2, which is just pure, just all neutral based, and footsies and spacing, even despite the zoning of the game itself, it's literally just full screen footsies. That's really just how the game was operating as. If you actually understood it, comprehended that, and played in that manner, you could actually, like, it literally opens your eyes, you could see the matrix, you actually understood how the game was fully operating. The thing is, when it came to the spacing and the neutral, if you were backing up and then you started getting clipped by an attack, characters, it was very rare for a character to really do so. Most of the time there was pushback in the game more than anything. Characters don't just fucking suck you in. Like, I'm starting to hit him with the tip of this move, and then by the end of it, I'm literally right next to him, as you can see. You know, like, that's the problem with the auto movement, the auto neutral of this game in its entirety. It's that with all these characters, any character with a strong offensive game, which is a huge portion of them, it's just that you simply just do the move. The moment it starts connecting on block, you're guaranteed to just start cycling it and just start your whole shit. You know, there's no requirement for you to actually have good spacing, to have good timing. It's legit, just keep on fucking pressing it until it eventually connects. Because all in the process, all in the while, you're building meter from doing chip, you're building meter from doing your specials, you get hit because you're an idiot and you don't actually have good neutral, but this game likes to convince you that you do, then you're winding up with 3 bars, so you get to break, you're still working your way in, still being stubborn about it because you don't have to care, utilize your Kameo, still get in, and then still just make it happen anyways. This itself, like, this is what I don't agree with. Like, I don't get it. It doesn't reward you for being good. It doesn't give you a consequence for being bad. It's simply just do what the game is trying to make you do, and that's kind of it. And that's the entirety of what MK11 was. It wasn't about the whole fighting game aspect itself. It wasn't about fighting the opponent, fighting the player. It wasn't about actually being in the fight. It wasn't about the genre in its entirety. It's literally about, we want you to do this, so do this, and just have fun with it. That's not a fighting game to me. I don't know about anybody else, but this is an entirely different genre in its entirety, and not one that should be supported. So continuing with that, a big part of it, like, still stemming from this, it's the fact, like, this ties into characters' neutrals, the movement, and then also just like the B&Bs. This in itself, ironically, is exactly what steered me away from the likes of like Street Fighter and Tekken, Dead or Alive, or those kinds of games. It's even Soul Calibur a little bit. Obviously, they're the pioneers within fighting games. I've grown to admire them, respect them, and walked away with whatever I could learn from those kinds of games in their entirety. My initial thing, and the reason why I stuck around with NRS and why I gravitated more towards them, was just their artistic style, their combo system itself. I feel like that introduced a whole new component to fighting games in its entirety that was actually for the betterment of it. Actually having that player expression and the character expression, and actually having all these different opportunities where you're no longer actually playing this shimmy game, of respecting a 40% command grab, or taking 50% from a grappler, off of just like 2 grabs in any of those kinds of games, any of those genres, or you get a hit confirm, you connect anything, like something like that, connect a special, connect into a super, and there goes like 60%, depending on the genre that you're in. Like, I'm not too keen a fan of that. Like, I'm not a fan of burst damage like that in its entirety. I haven't grown to actually like it. I don't feel like it really attests to much. It's more so playing like the neutral game itself, which makes sense. It's more of like a realistic fight, because then like every touch, itself sort of like counts. But I feel that within fighting games, within the genre itself, having the actual capacity to remember these combo sequences, something like Marvel, for example, like Marvel versus Capcom, to actually have the execution to be able to even perform all that damage, to me that's so much more satisfying, and that is so much more actually geared for high level, in my opinion. Because you actually need to have that discipline, and you need to have like that recall and that memory, and then knowing the spacing, and having the time management and the resource management to be able to actually to know how to do all those little intricacies and all those things, not drop it, cash out on all that damage, and then should you get that next opening, still be able to follow through with all that momentum as well, and not just have the match be over in 5 seconds because you just landed a couple of throws. I don't find the hype in that, personally. So that's what I enjoyed, and that's why I gravitated towards NRS games. And now we're coming back to this shit, where this is just the basis of everything that you do, and it's just, I don't understand. I don't think that anybody legitimately ever actually complained about the game in its entirety, that was the problem, that we needed more of this. I don't think anybody ever said that. I think this was always something that people complained against. Like, starting from MK9, no one liked Johnny Cage, forward 3, forward 3, forward 3, 3, 3. Like, that was just all the character had to do. And then you just bring it back. For the whole cast. On top of that, too. Not even just one character. It doesn't make sense to me. So see, like with this move, you do it on block, it resets you. You land it on hit, and it resets you into the right exact spot for you to just keep on rinsing it over and over and over. Even if he hits you with this, look, Startup is 12. He's only plus 10 off of this. The thing is, you cannot backdash this. You cannot parry it. If he like dash cancels up, you can't do anything about it. You cannot armor it. You can't jump it. You can't backdash it. You can't parry it. I don't think you can even super it. You know, like, so it's like, it's just, it's almost like a teasing, taunting frame data, essentially. It's just there to make you seem like, oh, you have an option, when realistically you actually really don't, by any remote way. And typically, in most games, this wouldn't be a thing, you know? Like, having frame data not truly line up, or having just things just be general frame traps, usually means, okay, at least I have an option, I have something. You know, I can backdash, I can armor, I can do something, you know? There's some semblance of a window. This game, though, it's not. A lot of frame traps are still essentially jails. But it's really just dependent on the character itself. Because if your character likes Adele, you don't actually have frame traps, you just have death sentences for yourself. So then that kind of brings me to my next thing. I'm going to go back to her. The problem with this game is the wake up system, which I know I already made a video about the hard knockdowns, soft knockdowns, all that, but it's the get up itself. Like that, it's just, I don't really understand the direction for this game. I don't know what exactly they were planning. I don't know who it was that really convinced the mind behind this that these were all good ideas when they weren't. Or I'm pretty sure a lot of people voiced that these were not good ideas, and I don't understand why the person deciding this at the end of the day still thought that they were the genius. It doesn't make sense to me. But just to show the problem with this Wakeup system itself, it's the same exact Wakeup system as MK11, as you can see. So there's no real actual meaty. You can only meaty characters in this game if it's a character specific thing, as you can see. So I'm gonna have the button log on, so you can see, look, I'm getting hit, I'm just mashing that shit. So it's not actually coming out. So the problem with this is what MK11 had. What is actually occurring, what is going on, is that you technically don't have invincible wake-ups. Certain characters do, like Johnny Cage. At the expense of 2 bars, he has the EX Nut Punch, which is fully invincible. But at the same exact time, what every character has, what is going on, is that you have wake up invincibility, you have get up invincibility. As you're rising from your wake up itself, you literally will have a duration of invincibility, as you can see right there. Your character cannot be touched, they cannot be hit, they can perform anything, sure, but the thing is, they are invulnerable in this moment as they're rising. I don't know whether this was intentional or not, but I have a feeling that it is, because this is what happened at MK11, and clearly they had no intention of fucking changing this, so it's intentional. I have no other reason to assume otherwise. So this intentional design, it's stupid, because what all these things keep on doing, it's still punishing the winning player. It's still punishing the oppressor in all different kinds of ways. But it's only punishing them if you're not using specific characters. Because if you're using a character like Johnny Cage, it doesn't matter whether you're winning or you're losing. Every single turn that you get back is a turn that you can turn to momentum. You're using a character like Liu Kang, same thing. Baraka, same thing. Character like Kenshi, same thing. You know, Melina, same thing. Rain, same thing. It's just, it's ensuring those kinds of designs never actually lose their turn, and then ensuring that everybody else that doesn't have that specific kit, they are essentially always losing for every single time that they're hitting the opponent. Which means that it's almost like there's 2 different levels, there's 2 different classes of the game itself. They are the on meta and the off meta. The on meta, all the mechanics are favoring them. Off meta characters, if they're winning, despite the mechanics, despite the matchup, despite fighting against other on meta characters, the game itself is going to punish off meta characters, because their off meta isn't playing into the mechanics, and it's still always going to favor the on meta ones, if this is all making sense. It's like every single aspect of an off meta character is going to continually get punished by the game in its entirety if they're facing up against another character that is now on meta. But now, if it's an on meta character, it doesn't actually matter what's occurring, whether you're winning or you're losing, the mechanics are forever going to keep on funneling back into you an actual choice for you to just flip it over. Because it doesn't matter whether you're winning or you're losing, the intention is still to make you win if you're on meta. That's the bullshit of this game. Like, it's not enjoyable, it's not fun, it doesn't require some crazy level of testing. You know, like, this isn't some high level shit. It's really just, it's like a kiddy's wet dream of like, these are the cool kids, these are not. You know, and they're just cool because I just said so. And it's a really, really immature and pretty substantial waste of time, you know, if that's going to be the intention behind it for its entire longevity, which was literally what MK11 was. And that's why I invested next to no time in it. It was beyond obvious, and look at the end state of the game. Like, I just think that it's, if characters, if moves are touching a fucking character, make them register. That, like, that's it. That's all that it comes down to. If a move is touching a character, make them get hit. Because why the fuck am I getting hit by, like, random ass shit? You know? Like, there's certain moves where it's just like, characters will stick out their legs and they're not actually fully touching you, but they're touching you. You know? Like, if I had to deal with that from, like, these ghost hitboxes, if my move, or any move in general, is hitting an opponent, make it register. It's that simple. Like, get rid of this shit. Like, what is that? like quite literally, what is this? That makes no sense whatsoever. They're just kicking right through his body, and it's cool. This is a universal thing in the game as well too, by the way. Because then on top of that too, what's stupid, which is his armored move. I think that's the armored one. So look, right? You can't wake up armor, right? Because we were just like, oh, the whole delay wake up, you know, because then that means it's like you can't wake up armor. You still technically will wake up armor. And instead, it's even better because what you're actually doing is you're waking up with an invincibility phase and then going from that into instant armor. You guys tell me if you think that that is fair, justifiable, and a good meta to get behind with this game. With no knockdowns, no hard knockdowns, everything's just a hard knockdown. You know, like, there's no differentiation. Everything just plants you right in front of the opponent. And that's what you have to respect. That's what you have to take. You have to respect and wait for an invincibility phase, and then instant armor afterwards. And then maybe you can go. Maybe then you can start your Oki. But now if you're Liu Kang, then it kind of doesn't really matter. You know? Because then you could just do this and still just break armor anyways. Or do that and still break armor anyways. You know, like, or do that and still break armor anyways. Like, confirming to that doesn't really matter. So then the next thing too, obviously having strong jump-ins isn't fun. That's not enjoyable. The solution isn't to make jump-ins completely unviable, because you still need to have some semblance of means to actually get some guaranteed pressure in. Like, if I land a whole setup, and look, I'm gonna have him here. I just have him do nothing. Like, if I'm doing this, and I meet you with that, I should be able to cash out on that, you know? Because it's like, I can do things to basically blow up his wake up, or I can do different things for different setups, but this specific setup, I want the plus frames, you know? Like, I'm making it pretty fucking obvious right here that I'm doing this. You stand block. You're not gonna fucking try to contest me, you know? Especially if they're, like, delaying their wake up. Especially if they're delaying their wake up. Like this, for example. And I'm doing this. I should not fear getting punished because they decide to fucking wake up block. You know? Like, I think it's so dumb. They keep on trying to address the problem, or they're trying to tackle it in all the wrong directions. The problem itself is not inherently the jump-ins, it's the fact that your anti-airs are not potent enough. Your anti-airs don't have anti-air fucking properties. That's the issue with it. It's not, oh, just completely negate jump-ins in its entirety, so that way only select characters can still jump in, and others cannot. It's just... This game, it's... all that it keeps, the more I keep on playing it, the more I keep on labbing, the more I keep on having discussion about it and really playing around with it. It's just, this is literally MK11 2.0, MK11 reimagined, and I am entirely not here for it. I don't I don't see what people saw in that game that they thought had redeeming qualities, and they really believed, hey, let's bring this back. When, again, NRS as a company, public statement, you had to pay your players to play the game because it was that bad. Your players would not compete in it, let alone play it or stream it or sponsor it, had you not paid them to do so in the first place. Why would you use that game that suffered that badly as your reference point for this new one? That is what I am failing to comprehend. I do not understand that logic. So now we're on Injustice 2. So as you could already see from here, you can see there's significantly more options than MK1's move list, or like the training room itself. You know, like, and it's very specific as to, you know, what it actually is, what you're going to affect. It's virtually almost the same exact options, realistically. The only difference is that this game, because it's like 7 years old, it doesn't have in-game frame data. That's the only part where they really dropped the ball with this game. The only other part would have been like the tournament mode. Tournament mode should have been turn off items, no interactables, no transitions, everybody base health 1,000. You know, that is what tournament level should have been. Tournament mode for this game should have been that. I sincerely, wholeheartedly believe that if tournament mode was actually like that, everybody's perception of this game would have been dramatically shifted. You would have actually seen this game for what it truly was. Because this, I feel like that is how the game was supposed to actually be played. You want to keep interactables? You do that with your friends, you know. Go grab a couple of beers, get drunk, you know, get high, do whatever you want. You know, have your little money matches amongst your friends. You play and you do that. That's fine. Have your fun doing that. You know, have your gear on too. You know, have a fucking blast. That's not tournament mode. You know, if you truly believe like interactables are necessary, it says the most about you as a player. But the reason why I brought this forward altogether was because I wanted to show you at least like the Wakeup like comparison with this game. So you can see there is a window where if you're not really hitting the character, see like right there, they still can rise and you're not actually touching them, you know? See like right there. But the thing is, that was a very particular window, and if you altered your timing to actually just get the timing right, as you can see like this, there was no way for them to get up. You could melee in this game, just like a traditional fighting game. You know, you could actually do that. Unlike MK1, in MK1 and MK11, when the character is getting up, they're rising with invincibility. So you literally can't even interact with them as the opponent. And then once the invincibility finishes, then they're still able to do attacks afterwards, like immediately. Within this game, you didn't have that. You're getting up, yeah, you're getting up, but you can get hit when you're getting up, so you better fucking block, you know? Or else you're just gonna keep on getting hit over and over and over. How it should be, you know? So that's really the core thing that I really just wanted to at least show with this. And then also just like this level of execution, like it doesn't exist in that game. Like you have to be so fucking fast. Like you really need to know what you were doing in this one, you know? Like you couldn't just get away with being an idiot. You couldn't just do forward 3-4, forward 3-4, there's your combo, you know? Like you actually had to have execution. You needed to know what you were doing. And you needed to understand how to convert off of different interactions. See like right here, for example, like if I connected that hit, you know, now you can actually convert off of this, whereas traditionally you couldn't convert off of the bash as a whole, you know, and pretty much every single character had this, where a lot of things that you couldn't traditionally combo off of, if you alter the spacing, you alter the positioning, now you actually could. Like MK1 doesn't actually have that. It's like these things are already gonna combo anyways, but now you can combo a little easier because you're in the corner. You know, you're so fucking high level. I hate that aspect of the game itself. I hate this direction that NRS is taking, and most fighting games in general are taking. It's just, it's kind of repulsive. It's very inferior. Like it's stupid. It doesn't open different doors. It doesn't open the avenue to innovation. It doesn't make it like, it doesn't push any boundaries. It's not actually going for the semblance of improvement. So what I'm showing here, everyone's like, you can tell that MK11 was a lot of people's very, very first fighting game like ever. Or you can tell just how many teenagers are part of the demographic of MK11, and then progressed into MK1 because they praised that game to the fucking high heavens. Oh my god, the customization, MK1 is giving us crumbs. We have nothing. We can only customize one thing. We only have like 2 skins, whereas MK11 had like 5 skins, with the different shaders and the crypt and everything like this. And NRS still has not surpassed this game in any remote way, like within anything. Look, within this game, you didn't have skins. You could literally customize every single thing. If you as a player, if you kept all of your ugly ass gear, that's your problem. If you thought that this game only had bad gear, like that's literally a you problem. That's you and your bad taste. Like you actually had so many options that you can alternate between, between actually achieving different looks of things that actually legitimately looked good and worked for the character. You know, like like look at this differentiation. You know, like you could make so many different things, and you can customize every aspect. It wasn't, oh, let me customize the mask and then a stupid little fucking sigh that you can't even see, or a little headpiece that's not even visible. You were actually freely able to customize every single aspect of the character itself. And on top of that, too, you weren't locked with a specific color for a specific skin. You could choose whatever kind of skin that you wanted to make, whatever kind of loadout, and then choose whatever kind of color that you wanted out of it at the same time, too. I don't understand why the community itself is trying so hard to kind of like brush this under the rug in a sense of, like this game didn't exist, like this game didn't do all these things already. NRS still has not done any better than this, like not by a long shot. um but that's really kind of it, because I don't really know what else to discuss. I don't really know what else to share. And the thing is, at the same time too, there was actual differentiation within the costumes. It wasn't like a pattern of trying to keep every character looking similar because they were related, kind of like the Edenians, like Sindel, Katana, Melina. Obviously, they have different skins, but they have certain key pieces about them that are very, very similar to show that they're like related. Kind of like the open toe heel type of nonsense. Like I feel like it's really just a lazy attempt. It's not trying to be cute about it. It's not really trying to show that they're related. It's more of like, it's the simplest way to show that they are from the same origin, but you don't really want to make the effort to actually give them something different. Because like, look, she looks nothing like Wonder Woman, like at all. You know, Poison Ivy and Cheetah might have been the worst ones when it came to their shaders. But even them, like look at them, looks nothing like Starfire, looks nothing like Wonder Woman, is entirely her own character. Whereas Harley, same thing. You know, everybody operated their own way, and they did this for this expansive ass roster. Like, look at this. Look at how many characters there were, and everybody was legitimately independent as to how they operated and what they did. Same with their loadouts. Same with everything. Like, they haven't remotely touched this level of capability since this game. And look at the graphics of this game. It still holds up. Like, it still is legitimately like a literal top 3 best looking fighting game to date. Like, you can't refute that. You can't look at this and say the game looks bad. Like, unless you select a specific screenshot, kind of like everybody is going for people's throats over that Tanya screenshot. The one where she's like, are you so easily taken in by lies? And they're like, oh my god, of course you're going to choose the worst one. You guys are doing the same exact thing whenever you're comparing this game. You know? Like, take it for what it is. Like, look at it. Like, look at the content. You can't say that this looks bad. You're literally delusional for saying that this looks bad.
Wonder Woman.
You know?
Superman.
This game could have used more stages, but realistically, like, look. Like, you had a lot of stages. Look, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. You had 20 stages. Like, it doesn't make sense to me how they didn't use this game as a learning lesson, in a sense of, this was really, really good. We should build off of this, not strip away pretty much every single thing and try to make it seem like they're being innovative and they're coming up with something new when this game has been the pioneer for NetherRealm and they still haven't surpassed it yet. It hasn't even come close. And like, in terms of graphics too, like it looks so good even just visually, just like this. Just like the whole state of the game, the flow of the game. You know, like the movement was just so good altogether. But then also look at the clash quotes. Look at this.
Did I mention I'm poison?
Still overconfident.
How are you gonna look at that and tell me that this game doesn't look good? You know, like there's no possible way. You know, obviously certain lighting isn't as good. MK1 still has that same exact issue. If a stage is too bright, characters don't look nearly as good as they do in like lower lightings, like lower light settings altogether. Like if it's too sunny, if it's too bright, it doesn't work well. I think that's just a universal thing within fighting games, or just within gaming as a whole, within animation in its entirety. It's just too much light, it's not going to look as good.
We could have had something.
Not in 1,000 years.
Same with the voice acting. Like, it's so fucking good. Everything about this game was just so goddamn good. It's so disappointing that they still haven't surpassed it. And then another quick little insert. I'm using the pad right now. You know, like the PS5 control. I have a hitbox. My hitbox, I got it during the Injustice 1 era. Like, I want to say give or take maybe like 8-10 years ago, I got my hitbox. It still works to this day. It still registers in the game to this day. It works on the PS5. I got it for the PS3. It works on the PS4. It works on the PS5. It works on any compatible game in general, you know, that is able to register a hitbox. MK1 doesn't even recognize the fucking hitbox. It doesn't even give me an error message saying that there's something connected and it can't read it. It just doesn't even acknowledge that it's there. I can't use my hitbox for MK1, which is even more of a testament as to how inadequate and how incomplete and untested the game itself is. It's frustrating because I was really hoping that this was going to be like the redeeming game for NRS, and it's really just more of the same. And I know that people are trying to put the blame on Warner Brothers, but it's really not Warner Brothers necessarily. Like, you can see how much effort NRS spends with the stupid shit that they really want to push and implement, and the things that they make, like Mortal Kombat streams for, you know, the Kombat cast. Like, they really want to go over specific things. Like, they really want to, you know, showcase the stuff like those moronic talismans, you know, and what the fuck is it called, invasions mode and whatnot. They spent a disgusting amount of time working on that mode. I don't think anybody actually likes it. Which, you know, I could have told you that. Like, it looks stupid to begin with. It's like, I'm not trying to play Monopoly in a fighting game, you know, and fight 200 different fucking opponents, 200 different AIs with a whole bunch of shit flying across the screen. I'm not trying to do that, you know, just so I can get a skin, you know, a potential skin. I don't even know what I actually can unlock or not, you know. Like, it's dumb. Everything they did about that was just, it was moronic. But yeah, that's basically it for this video. I really don't know what more to say. I want to try to really invest more time in MK1, but it's like, it's not even like the beta version of this game. It's less than that. Like, it's so inferior in every single aspect, and it's just like, it's so hard for me to try to get into it. Like, I want you to at least be at ground zero, you know? The game is still at a subterranean level. It's not even at ground zero. This game is significantly higher than ground zero, but MK1 isn't even there yet. I find it very, very hard to actually try to grind it and try to invest in it. Like, it feels so childish, and it feels like such a babied way to try to get people into fighting games. But it's like, but you're not even giving them a fighting game to begin with. You're not even incorporating fighting game mechanics within it. So, like, where do you expect it to actually wind up, you know? But that's basically it. I don't know when the next video is going to be. I don't know what the next video is going to be. But that's it for this one. You guys can follow me on Twitch, Twitter. My DMs are open on Twitter, so you guys could just message about anything. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, I hope you guys have a good day or night, and take care.